Australia is having an Airbnb effect. The rental crisis in Australia is so bad, it's become the real estate version of the Hunger Games. Brisbane resident Ariel has expressed her concerns about finding rental properties.
Well, Australia's housing crisis is completely messed up. If only we had a Prime Minister who was brought up in social housing.
Ariel's TikTok activism helped raise 14,496 signatures on an e-petition calling for a royal commission into the national housing crisis and an investigation into whether the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, right to an acceptable standard of life, has been violated. So, while it may seem like a convenient way for homeowners to make some extra cash, the reality is that Airbnb is having a devastating impact on Australia's rental market and the local communities are suffering. In this video, we'll take a closer look at the facts and figures behind Airbnb's impact on Australia's rental market and what it means for the future of affordable housing in the country.
The soaring cost of rental properties and lack of supply means some Sydney workers are being forced to live on the streets despite being employed.
Well, Australia's housing crisis is reaching new lows. The situation's so bad, a camp of tents and people living in cars has emerged in Anthony Albanese's own Sydney electorate.
Airbnb, a company that started in 2008 as a way for homeowners to rent out their spare rooms, has now grown into a multi-billion-dollar company. However, Australia is facing an Airbnb effect. Airbnb arrived in Australia in 2012, and millions of international and domestic tourists have used the platform since then. The number of listings in Sydney, Melbourne and Brisbane has surged by more than 50% in recent years, according to the Australian Financial Review. It has brought with it a series of profound shifts, from a new willingness to do business with strangers over the internet and sleep in someone else's bed, to giving anyone the ability to live like a local in someone else's town. But now, it sparked concerns about the benefits of booming short-term accommodation when locals have nowhere to live. Across the country, Australia's rental market is under unprecedented pressure, with experts labelling it a national crisis. And this growth has been so rapid that some people are now choosing to buy homes just to rent them out on Airbnb rather than live in them. And there is a term being used for these houses, which is ghost hotels. So Airbnb isn't the innocent home-sharing site it pretends to be. It encourages greedy opportunists to snap up real estate in city centres to rent exclusively to tourists, driving out long-term residents, raising rents and killing local businesses. So what does this signify for the Australian rental market? Well, the growth in Airbnb listings is having an effect on the housing market by driving up property prices. This is due to investors purchasing properties to rent out on Airbnb, which increases demand for properties in popular locations. This demand causes home prices to rise, making it even more difficult for locals to enter the housing market. Moreover, there are fewer properties available for long-term renting, which is driving up rental prices as well, because people are buying houses solely to rent them out. This is making it increasingly difficult for low-income families to find housing, and in certain locations, it's generating widespread homelessness. As a result, with only fewer people living in the region who are invested in the local community, there may be a loss of community spirit. It can also lead to scarcity of services, such as schools and healthcare facilities, because there are fewer citizens to help them out and support them. And if this trend continues, more and more locals will likely be priced out of the rental and property markets, which will have long-term implications for the country. But we can't let this happen. If Airbnb gets its way, the lively, colourful neighbourhoods visitors love will disappear, replaced by charmless tourist dead zones. Let's have a look at some numbers. The Real Estate Institute of Australia reports that the typical weekly rent for a residence in Sydney has risen by 39% since 2012. Locals are finding it increasingly difficult to afford a place to live as rental costs climb. AirDNA, a data tracking company, tracks 11,043 Airbnb listings in Sydney, 71% of which are complete homes. And it's not just Sydney. In Melbourne, Airbnb has over 10,000 homes listed that were taken away from the long-term rental market. In Brisbane, that number is over 3,000. In Melbourne, it monitors 15,526 dwellings, 82% of which are entire homes. That's a lot of properties being taken off the rental market and used for short-term rentals. And you can see in this chart how rental vacancy rates have fallen to 0.9% and rents increased by 15.3% in 2022. this trend will continue into 2023, a crushing prospect for those renting while trying to save a deposit to buy their own home. But who's benefiting from this? Certainly not locals who are struggling to find affordable housing. And who's to blame for this? Some argue that Airbnb is taking advantage of a flawed system, while others believe that the government needs to do more to regulate the company. Now, it's clear that the local community is suffering the most from the rise of Airbnb, with many struggling to find affordable housing. But what about the tourists? As tourism is the lifeline of Australia, travellers flock to the beautiful vegetation of the New South Wales town for the trails, rivers and wineries. It also holds folk and cultural events, is a favourite wedding location and is a short drive from South Coast beaches. But Kangaroo Valley is in a bind due to its own popularity. It's nearly impossible to find a place to live there. This Airbnb effect has also created challenges for tourists and other visitors who are looking for affordable and available long-term rental accommodation in Australia, as they may be competing with locals and other visitors who are also searching for limited rental properties. So what can be done to address this issue? Well, there is no easy answer, but some potential solutions include increased regulations on short-term rentals, the introduction of vacant property taxes, and incentives for homeowners to rent out their properties to long-term tenants. The impact of Airbnb on the long-term rental market is not unique to Australia and has been observed in many other countries around the world, and they're also taking various steps to deal with it. For instance, Amsterdam, San Francisco and London have set limits of 30 to 90 nights per year that an entire home can be booked on a platform like Airbnb. Beyond this time, planning permission is needed to change the use of the property. But given Australia's dire shortage of rental housing, restricting short-term rentals seems like a no-brainer. So at first, in order to reduce the rental crisis, Australia needs to build more well-located rental dwellings that are affordable to people on low incomes. Strategies to make this happen can include targeting Commonwealth rent assistance more effectively, increasing CRA to better align with rents in local areas, and improving connectivity between outer suburban and satellite city housing markets and job-rich areas. Ultimately, it will take a concerted effort from all the parties involved, including local governments, homeowners and travellers, to ensure that the benefits of short-term rentals like Airbnb don't come at an expense of affordable housing for locals and tourists as well. So what do you think? Do you agree that Airbnb is having a negative impact on Australia's rental market? And if so, what do you think should be done to address this issue? Let us know in the comment section below. And as always, thank you for watching.